Hi guys, I think you'll find one missing frame, which is Habib right now. The COA president has suddenly been called for an urgent meeting, so he'll join in as we speak. But the reason that we are all together and not trying to do a panel discussion, but trying to debate on certain very, very important things is because, as I said, I'm calling myself a provocateur. And the idea is to hold a mirror to ourselves and hold a mirror to ourselves and realize, why do architects not matter in this society? If you find it very harsh, well, the fact of the matter is that architecture does not permeate to the masses. At best, the profession remains a tool for personal glory, or at best, for the glory of the client or the project. We do not matter to the public. We do not matter for the society. The reason is because our work, our projects do not matter or make difference to the life of the people at large. How do we make ourselves relevant to the society? What are the projects that can make us relevant to the society is what I thought we will debate about it. And what better context than to find out how we can design and how our public spaces are designed by architects, or if they are at all designed by architects. Historically, public spaces are places which are for socio-political gatherings or just plain convivial areas of religious or other kind of gatherings where there is complete organic structure, there is nothing designed, there is no placemaking that happens, and people just come out into the open and they are free to come. However, over a period of time, these areas have also been segregated by usage, by caste, by creed, by religion, also by sometimes in case of temple precincts and stuff like that, by even the gender. So I thought we will debate with everybody and talk about what is it that we can do in the public realm to bring in a little more architecture, a little more design, so that people at large who are, I don't like to call anybody have-nots, but in terms of design sensibility have-nots, because they don't have the means to have very well designed, ergonomically designed places of their own. If they come out into the public realm, the moment they step out of their own homes, they come out into the public realm. If the public realm is well designed, even a small bus stop, a bench, a park bench or something which is well designed, they interact with a good design. Somehow a good design gets imprinted subconsciously in your mind because of the difference that you can suddenly articulate, that in your own house when you're sitting on a makeshift stone bench, and then you are coming here on a bus stop where there's a steel ergonomically designed bench that gives you good support and everything, you will start understanding the nuances of good design. And this is what I think allows people to sensitize themselves towards good design. And I think we can educate people about good design. And when the creator of that good design happens to be an architect, I think the profession benefits. So I'm throwing open this entire topic to all of you. My first question, I think, let's start with Sheila. The definition of public space. What exactly is a public space? What is public space by right, and what is public space by privilege? Over to you.
Hi. Public spaces, according to me, there are only two kinds of spaces, which are private and public. And of course, you have all the grays in between. So the transition spaces, which are semi-private or semi-public, public to the extent restrictive for communities, muted, or open to the entire, human race. Anybody without any restrictions, no barriers, no genders, no religion, no caste. So you have everybody.
Sheila, you're very soft. I can't hear you clearly. Sorry.
Yeah, should I? Yeah, I was saying that spaces are basically of two kinds. As far as I'm concerned, it's either private or public. And in between the black and the white, there are several tones of gray. So these tones of gray could make it semi public or semi private, or to a restricted community, to a particular community, to a particular neighborhood, which can be defined by geography, by gender, by vocation, by education if they are in an institution, by the institution that they go to. So there are various kinds of public spaces. But one thing about public spaces is that if private spaces are the backstage where a person can get ready, I think public spaces is where the drama happens, the drama of life happens. So I give a lot of value to public spaces because that is where we as a human race interact, connect, collaborate, learn, strengthen our strengths, and minimize our weaknesses, and aspire, get inspired, and set benchmarks for ourselves, whether it is collectively or whether it is individually, to do better in life and to lead a more comfortable, happy, and prosperous life. So these spaces are very, very, very important. But what happens is that, in designed campuses, like in an institutional campus or in a residential township, there is an architect or a master planner who, decides, makes spaces, identifies placemaking techniques, and identifies that this is for leisure, this is for congregation, this is for something else, this is for drama, etc.
Can we
But
have
then
this
there
lamp this side?
Sorry? But there are also spaces which are anonymous and which are given to us by nature's bounty. And those are spaces like our beaches, our riverfronts, our lakesides, our biodiversity parks, etc., which is open and non-restrictive. It is by and large there for humanity to enjoy and explore. So why I say it is sad that there are these spaces which are anonymous is because in Tamil they say Porambok. I don't know how many of you understand, but Porambok is a kind of a no man's land. And when they want to give a gali to somebody, they say Poda Porambok. That means you're useless. So the connotation of Porambok is being useless. But whereas it is in the parlance of the planet, it is one of the global commons that we need to enjoy, and that is rightfully ours. So how do you get this ownership to these spaces? What does an architect do, or what can a designer do to make this sense of belonging and sense of identity to these kinds of spaces, which will attract people and make them, safe and convenient for usage in any way that they want. So all these spaces, like I said, beachfronts, lakesides, riverfronts, could be used in multifarious ways. You could have music shows in the evening. You can have a skating rink and have children skating in the afternoon. You could have, under a tree. You could have a congregation. You could have a meeting, or you could have picnics. So these by far are very flexi usage and flexi programmatic. So
See, I'm going to jump in here. And I feel that these are unarticulated spaces. And when we are talking about, these are what nature has given us. Anything which is not put to a particular use is a public space, and it's an open space. What I think we are talking about and what we want to know is what is the placemaking that happens in these public spaces, which is an intervention that
That is
will
what
help
I'm
it to
saying.
get identified as a articulated space.
That is precisely what I am saying. If you have a 3-mile stretch of beach, then it is up to the designers to kind of identify or zone these areas for various activities and various conveniences. So the infrastructure is required. If
Right.
toilets are required, a corner for pets, a corner for barrier free, for people who can, are challenged to walk, gradients done. So all that is the designer's, articulation. But by and large, the entire 3-mile stretch is one entity. So I mean, whether it is the micro level or the macro level, at the macro level it's the beachfront, okay, but at a micro level it could be a quadrangle or a courtyard in a residential complex where all the apartments overlook. So how do you
I think
articulate?
I think what Vivek is asking us is,
Yeah,
so I think your definition is fantastic, that there is the private and the public and all the grays in between, and all this can happen. What he's asking us to do is self-reflect on why in India are architects not relevant, and why are our public spaces not better? So what is stopping? Is it that architects are not volunteering to do this? They only want to work for a client? So the private realm, and you mentioned the townships and the campuses and all of those have that because there's a client who's paying. But in the other public realm, in these gray spaces and in these leftover spaces or the nature, their interventions are not there. So Vivek, I think you're being a little harsh on architects and designers. No,
But
let me say it.
yeah, that's the whole idea.
So I think you're being a little harsh, because it is, you see, for public spaces, there has to be a process, right? There has to be um, the city as the client, and the
Has to
city
own it.
as the client has to have a process to engage an architect or to engage an urban design firm to be able to do it. That process in our cities doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
We have our town planning acts. So Maharashtra town planning. So certain limited things happen because they're there in the act. So the processes that happen in cities are defined by law, right? And so the law says there shall be a 10-year master plan. So there's a 10-year master plan made. The law says, and in that master plan, they say this shall be your width of your road. So that applies, right? So in a sense, our laws and our acts need to be reformed. When we talk about reform, it's not only financial reform, it's not only reform of outdated police laws or criminal laws, it's also these laws that need reform. See, the Maharashtra Town Planning Act was 1967. So 67 ke baad, there's nothing come. So unless citizens demand and tell the legislators or the MLAs, and we tell them, boss, you need to change this act. Now you need to incorporate processes that improvements can happen in public spaces, that citizens can take up project. There has to be a process in place. As designers, all of us have repeatedly, given our time, made designs for promenades, for entire makeover of streets, for beach plans, for everything. But then we have to go, Acha Mai Baap, Kardona, go to the commissioner, you go to the chief minister, you go to the ward officer, and you're pleading.
You don't know where to
So
go.
why do we have to plead? So why should we have to plead? There should be a process.
Just to keep the dialogue going, Sheila, Rahul, I will have to take you back to the times. There's a thing called a pro bono effort. If we will come back to blaming the government authorities, the town planning rules and everything, we will never be able to do anything. In every other profession, let me just finish. In every other profession, whether it is advocates who have a legal clinic, which is for the poorest of the people, if they are in trouble, they of course teach them. They will tell them that, okay, you should not break the law, this, that, the other, but they help them. Doctors, if you are ill, if you are not well, they will obviously, there are enough pro bono clinics that the doctors help. So that is how the profession permeates down to the lowest level. An architect is always making a good whipping horse of a town planning department or the municipality or something, and not doing enough pro bono effect. I'll ask you one question. Through this pandemic, through the 7 months of lockdown, has there ever been even one WhatsApp forward where an architect has been relevant, right from every doctor, every quack, every...
There have been 200. There have been 200.
What kind of what?
There have been 200. About social distancing in markets, about designing marketplaces, about designing stalls. How do you design a stall so that a worker can... There have been 200 of them.
That's always only gone to the fraternity. Yeah. That's always gone only to the fraternity. What I'm saying is, did it affect everybody? I thought that is the most commonsensical thing.
It did. In Bombay, it did. Grantpur market was changed.
Yeah, so these guys are coming. These guys are being spoken with tomorrow. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that we said we'll speak on the public spaces. My question again, coming back, Rahul, I will just put it again and bring it back in a little more relevant manner. The question right now is, how relevant are we? Are we designing for people? Can we design pro bono? And I think there, maybe if Habib was there, my question to him would have been, does, as a representative of the fraternity, council have the teeth to form some kind of pro bono teams in every city, in every municipality? And
why should we design pro bono for the city? I can design a pro bono for a guy in a slum who can't pay. Why should I do pro bono work for a government who can pay, who waste taxpayer money in projects which are frivolous? Why should I do pro bono work for them? They should pay for the services. Absolutely. This is for the benefit of everybody. We are all paying taxes. It's a democracy. We are saying what is good for the common. So we all need to work for the common good. So there has to be a process to harness. See, there's no lack of design. There's no lack of design sensibility. Hum thak gaye hain. We are tired of doing pro bono work and begging. How many projects I've done? How many projects fellow Bombayites have done? But we get tired being shunted from one municipal corporation to the other. There has to be a process. Why can't listen, unless there is a law, unless there is a process. See, even your DC rules, why do we crib about the rules, right? We are constrained by it, right? Your creativity is constrained by it. You need to change the damn DC rules to unleash the creativity. Law plays a much greater role. We think, acha, everything is creative. Arre baba, aise nahi hai life mein.
But the architects want to be
the bureaucrat only follows his law. When you go to him with a design, he's saying, acha, this doesn't fit into my schedule of rates. This doesn't fit into my this, that, and the other. So the laws have to be changed.
We want to be law unto ourselves. The thing is, why can't we align ourselves with the municipal?
We don't know how democracy works. We don't understand how democracy works. We therefore go to the bureaucrat and we don't go to the politician and demand change from the politician. Boss, design is also policy design. If policy doesn't work, if policy doesn't allow you, you're going against the current. Change the current to serve you.
Let me also tell you one thing. I have been doing this.
We don't participate in democracy. Architects and people, we're not in a democracy. You get what you deserve at the end of the day. So we are at fault. We're all at fault. There's no blame. But I'm trying to lay down the process. Sorry, Sheila.
When I'm talking about, let me bring back the same thing. When I'm talking about pro bono work, I'm talking about what used to happen in earlier public spaces. Somebody would go and put a pyau, a water hut. Somebody will go and put a bench. Now, this is what I'm calling as a pro bono work, where you can design a good bench, put it there, show it as a prototype to the municipality, align with the municipality. This is how an architect can actually seek a client. How do we work? The entire process
Vivek,
of an architect work is different.
Vivek,
Yes, Kapil.
I want to
Why
just
do we have to do that?
one second.
Why do we have to do that?
Okay,
Yeah,
go.
1 second. I don't think the issue is pro bono or not pro bono.
Kiran has
I
something
think,
to say.
I have a fundamental issue. I think when we look at ourselves, I think let me be honest with you. Our emphasis on public spaces is very, very weak as a culture. And the reason for that is that
Right.
our concern, and I'm talking about the general citizens and stuff like that, or even when you talk to a corporator and stuff like that. In fact, where I say our corporator or our member of Legislative Assembly is Mr. Thackeray, Aditya Thackeray. And we've been engaging with Aditya Thackeray. Now, the issue is that the priority of the people is actually far more basic than public spaces. So we don't lay enough emphasis on public spaces. And, by
True that.
public spaces, we mainly talk about recreational spaces or open spaces, but just simple things like streets and stuff like that is an issue. So what I'm just trying to say is that our concerns become more basic in terms of providing housing, sanitation, etc., etc. So the emphasis on public spaces as a culture traditionally is been very, very weak. And
The
if you look at
priority is very low.
yes, the priority is very, very low. And if you notice, in not the British, I just want to keep the British colonial this thing out of it. If you look at it, what has worked as successful public spaces in India as a race is really been religious spaces, because you've got the religious tag attached to it. So it becomes these religious spaces which are in a certain sense sacred. Therefore, these things are valued. But general public spaces, recreational spaces, there is a severe dearth of it, and we consider that to be a very low priority. And I think priorities are changing, but the process is very, very slow. Today, I think the issue is that our priorities are not with public spaces. And I'm talking about public spaces in the broadest sense of the word, right from streets and stuff like that. And, I think there is an issue there that unless we kind of look at, as architects, urban designers, citizens broadly, talk about how public space is going to affect all of us, I don't think that the priority
That's exactly
is
the point.
there. So that is the issue. I think that is the debate, at least in my opinion, that
That's
needs to
exactly
go on.
it,
I agree with
Kiran. That's
Rahul.
exactly the point.
I also agree with Rahul that there is absolutely no need to do pro bono work, honestly speaking. There's absolutely no need to do pro bono work, because I think it's not even going to make a small dent in the whole perception of how we perceive public spaces. The important thing is that unless, I think becoming part of the process of actually talking to our corporators, talking to our districts, of actually saying, realizing the importance of public space, I think we are completely on a wrong track and stuff like that. So I think there is a significant concern that I have about understanding the culture, and I think I personally find now COVID as a big opportunity, because suddenly people are looking at the value of open spaces and stuff like that. And, I have seen so many more people, exercising, realizing the importance of health, wellness and stuff like that all over the country. And I know Mumbai, for a fact, even in middle class, lower middle class suburbs and stuff like that. So I think the culture needs to change, that we need to put a far greater emphasis on public spaces. I think we're putting far greater emphasis on this, housing, providing housing, etc., but very little emphasis on public spaces. That's the problem. I think it's not a priority for us as a culture, honestly.
No, I'll just share something with you. Right from not now, but right from 1980s, I have been working with the government to see that a river in Chennai is vitalized. All the residual spaces are articulated, are given some usage, etc. And I had to when I went and met the CMD authority, they said, you convene the meeting. So I convened the meeting. I had the PWD, the corporation, the Pollution Control Board, the Slum Clearance Board. So all of them were part of this presentation. And when I presented it, finally they said the river belongs to the central authority. So you have to get the central authority involved because the river is not our jurisdiction. So it is, I think it is mostly that, we in as a system work in silos. So each one has a very laudable idea, but we are not able to tango together to see that we are in a position to get something and create something of value. So finally, you get tired. World Bank funds were
Yeah.
allocated, the river was cleaned, and then again.
I'm sorry, guys. I think we are again headed back in the same manner that we will, anyways, find somebody, will make a dartboard of one authority or the other, and absolve ourselves of our social responsibility.
No.
Not a question. Now I am part of the Chennai Smart City, so I
Right.
see a sea change. I see a sea change because at least on the board we are all together, and we have a command center, which is, we are moving in the right direction. So there is this
Again, the
collaboration.
question, Sheila, again, the question is, architects tend to play gods. And, we want people to lead their lives in a certain manner. We are very prescriptive in our thinking. Deny the fact that, in a smart city or whatever, then you will say, walk to work. You will have silos, actual silos, where you want people to walk to work, do this, that, the other, and everything. What if I'm working in Citibank and my job is in downtown and I live in Andheri? Then I will have to travel there. So the question is, and also I just realized the three of you belong to coastal areas and you have lovely public spaces by virtue of being coastal towns. I am from Delhi, and ask me that what great dearth of public spaces we have. There's literally none. All that we have.
I think you have all the
Hello,
monuments.
we envy Delhi.
You
yeah,
have to
what are you
understand,
talking
these are
about?
not public spaces. They are
The grass,
You've
grass
got Lachlan Delhi, you've got the
they are
range, you've got so
recreational.
many
Rahul,
gardens.
they are Rahul.
Exactly,
When I get out of
exactly
this
my
office
point.
now, after
Exactly
this
my
talk,
point.
if I want to go somewhere, I can't go to Ridge. I can't go to the park. Where is the public space for me? There is no
Why
public
can't
space
you
for
go
me.
there?
I
Why
want
can't
that
you
public
go
space
there?
to be created by
Why can't
because
you go there?
there is a
Why
timing
can't
for
you go
park.
there? Because there's a
There
law
is a timing
preventing
for-
you. Change the law. It should be
Right.
open at 24/7. The laws have to be changed. That's what I'm
because
saying.
then. So there is
Make it
the
accessible
question
to
is
public.
about what is a public. What is a public
It's-
space? Even
A
London's
garden should
Hyde
be a
Park
public
closes
space
at night
open
because-
24/7.
But we must be, what is a public space? Where it is safe and convivial for women, children, everybody. A park cannot
Right.
be safe at night, definitely. Not
Right.
because of people alone, because of reptiles, because of issues and everything. That could be the case. I'm talking about public spaces which you see. And I will give you some example in Delhi, and I think not many people, and I want people to identify that kind of one of the most chaotic areas in Delhi is the Ames flyover. That is a roundabout now. It's about 2-3 flyovers merged together, and the underbelly of a flyover is always the worst kind of a place. We only deal with that place as a moving thing. We are always in a car. There is hardly any pedestrian crossing there and everything. Jindals came, and again, that's why I'm saying, and that's what I meant, not just pro bono, but proactively getting back, usurping public spaces by placemaking. They came, put some lovely mushrooms. Lovely is a very subjective word, and that's why architects do not progress, because we are always pulling each other's legs down. Somebody finds something subjectively good, subjectively bad. Now, these mushrooms, what they did to the city is that, to me and you, we only look at it from the top. But people in Ames and Safdarjung who are emotionally, hassled, who are physically hassled, who have left their homes and who are attending to relatives in the hospitals for months together, they find respite in that place. It's the most chaotic place, everything. It's got cacophony of sound, visual cacophony, everything. But for them, that placemaking by those mushrooms, this is a public space for those people. And I call that as public space. Why can't
Absolutely
architects do
agree
that?
with you. Vivek, totally agreed with you. Now, if you were to think, what process can put this in place in every neighborhood, in every city in the India? Okay, what should the process be to do this? Right? You want to upgrade every
Right,
such
right.
place, every neighborhood. Right? What should the process be? The process cannot be a 10-year master plan, right? It needs to be a different process that says every neighborhood has a budget, has the right to come up with a plan of what they want to upgrade in the next year or the next two years, and the government will listen and prioritize it, provide the funds, create it. So there needs to be a process in place to do it. Right now, there's no process. So you're begging. So this whole thing of master planning is an outdated idea. We as designers who know better need to, as Kiran said, the importance of this needs to be driven home, that these kind of places, as you're saying, under the flyover, benefit the common man tremendously, benefit everyone. In Bombay, there are several such things. But there needs to be a process in place so that this can happen again and again and again, not depend on free work by architects, not depend on persistence by architects, but a genuine process which lets it happen. So you have to change then. You have to change to go from master planning to continuous improvement. Continuous, every 2 years, 3 years, continuous improvement. What does this neighborhood need? How can we improve it? And it needs to be on various scales. So we need to design a framework.
I agree. I fully agree with you. Fully
and
agree
put
with
a
you.
budget to it.
I think
When you
Also,
do
let me finish. Our corporation budgets, right, are very top down. Why should they be top down? The guy sitting in the head. In Delhi, you got the governor, right? In Bombay, we have the commissioner who's not elected, right? Who doesn't know what's happening in a neighborhood. So when the budget making exercise is happening, every neighborhood needs to submit its top 3 schemes for the year and saying, this is what we want to get done in the year. There's enough money available.
Neighborhood through an architect. Again, that's what I'm saying. I want the architect to come center stage in the planning of public spaces.
No. First, the people have to decide what they want. Then they get the architect involved to design for them. The people are the clients, right? So you have a neighborhood committee, you organize. It's a democracy. We need to make our democracy more vibrant, right? So we need to design the democracy. We're a fossilized. So as designers, that's the role we need to play, possibly, to redesign the democracy, to make it vibrant, so that these things bubble up. The importance is given to the kind of places that needs to be given. People are heard. Common man you're saying architect doesn't work for the common man. I mean, we don't even know what they want. We believe we know what they want. We don't know what they want. They may want something completely different. So first you have to listen. What do they want? That prioritization needs to happen, a process, then the budget allocated, then the architect come in to provide that, right? Then your flyover,
Now,
under
today
the
there are enough
flyover,
examples.
millions will happen in the city, in the country.
Right. Today, there are enough examples of a good design, a good intervention gets traction. You know, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That again, we should not go this way. We should not go by policy, this, that, the other. Give to the society what they need or what we feel that they will benefit out of, and let it gather traction in the entire fraternity. What is happening is that we are sitting in our silos unless there is a common forum, and that common forum has to start from the architects fraternity. The reason why we're doing a series of 3 different panel discussions or debate is this only, that you are the thought leaders. You guys at your level are the thought leaders. You need to be looking at it, as a disruptive thinking. If you will always be able to only say this much, that there are issues and policy that we all know. This is the ill of our society. But the thing is, as disruptive thinkers, you have to find avenues which will come tomorrow at the end of the session, where I'm finding, and that's why I categorize these 3 into thought leaders as you guys. Then there are problem solvers who are actually, when there is a problem in a city, these are the guys who are actually engaging themselves with issues of a city. And then there are solution providers, who are people who have not even encountered a problem, but looking at things that they can.
Vivek, I agree with you.
The city.
Vivek, I agree with you. Absolutely. I agree with you. However, just see our thinking. We have again put ourselves in a silo. We put ourselves in a silo thinking we have all the answers, right? We don't have all
We
the
have some
answers.
answers.
We have to be
We
more
have
open.
some answers.
We
Yes,
don't
we
have all
are.
the. We have some answers. So if we had who is in charge of public spaces in a city, if we had all the people, and a designer plays one role, right? Is
Right.
one person. There are the financial planners, there is the legislators, there is the bureaucrats. They're all
Now
there.
there is COVID.
We are
Who is
not
treating
in a
doctors?
silo.
There is COVID right now. Who is treating doctors? It's exactly the same thing. There is an issue with our public spaces. Who has to treat it? Architects. The moment we know that, I think we will have an answer. And that's all that I'm looking at. With this panel, I'm saying, let's forget everything that doesn't happen. Let's talk about things that can happen. And I think we have lots of people commenting, and I think I can see Arshia saying public forum is the only way to get out of the silos. Engagement with public is necessary. Yes, absolutely. And sometimes understanding and articulating what public needs is an architect's job. You know, it's exactly like a patient going to a doctor and saying, this is somewhere I have an issue in my stomach. The doctor decides whether he needs an MRI or he needs a
But
capsule.
first, he listens to the patient.
Yes. Yes.
First, he listens to the patient. Do we even have a system to listen?
If
I
as
think,
architects,
Vivek, I-
When do we
identify-
listen? When do we
So I think-
listen?
We have to
No, Vivek,
listen. And it's very evident, isn't it? Very evident that today when you
So I
step
think
out
the
of your
issue
house.
is,
Yes, Kiran,
Vivek,
please.
the issue is that are we as citizens, as architect citizens, are we part of the process or are we not part of the process? At the moment, I don't think we are actively part of the process. And unless we come in actively, come in and become part of the process. So yes, there is a role that design plays. But, I honestly feel that today, we put a lot of emphasis on design. I firmly believe that even if we can get small things done today, I think the biggest problem that we have is even getting small things done. Whether it's good design, not good design is debatable, and I would even leave it. I would say that as long as we can come forward, I think we as architects pay too much kind of load on, is this good design? Is this well articulated? Not well articulated? And because of that, we just get out of the process. And I think we have to come into the process to engage with, I think, multifariously. We have to engage with public, we have to engage with corporators, we have to engage with the legal system, and we have to engage in getting things implemented. I think the biggest problem today is how do we get things implemented? And that is something we can, otherwise they'll keep remaining pipe dreams and stuff like that. And, honestly speaking, I think that, I have a little bit of a hesitation when you talk about the Jindals coming in and doing these mushrooms. These are kind of small gestures that people come in and they'll throw
They
some
make a
money.
difference to society.
That's all right. They make a little difference to society, but I think we've got to think deeper than that. That's what I'm trying to say. We've got to think more holistically than that. I think if we rely on corporates to come in, I also firmly believe that there is enough money with the municipality have. It is squandered away. Priorities are not there. Then the so-called philanthropists, the so-called this thing come in, and they say, okay, we are doing this island or we are doing this. I think this is peanuts, if you ask me. I think it's something far more substantial is needed as part of all of us as architects. I'm going to get back to architects, designers, engaging in the process. And I personally feel that there is not enough engagement happening currently. That's what my issue is.
We will again remain to processes. Let's just, Sheila, I want you to plow into good design of public spaces. Let's not discuss about the processes. Okay, you've got an entire beachfront to design. What are the priorities? How do we make it equitable? Because they say the depth of democracy is measured by the public spaces that it has. Tiananmen Square happened, Washington Square, whatever, all those areas are signs of democracy. India Gate, everybody's been talking about, there's been big debate about the Central Vista project. I wish we could take that up as well. Rahul, you've been very, very vocal about the Mumbai Port Trust project. You've been very vocal about the Coastal Road project. These were projects in the public realm. But I think because of your own I'm not being personal in it, but one's own perception and one's own vision of a certain thing, those projects are opposed. I think on certain reason, I think if we play an architect, then we shouldn't play the role of an environmentalist. We should remain an architect. We should only value a project basis good or bad design. But why not?
Sorry.
I tell my students that if nature has and this cosmos has been given to you by providence to live in, we as architects
Right.
carve out our spaces to create usable spaces for different people or for different purposes. So you were saying architects are not God. They're not God, but they are guiding angels. And if you look at it that way, we come from a democracy where we are all used to cricket and wonderful games of cricket. So a cricket game cannot be a success if there are not 1,000 or 10,000 spectators to cheer. So those are the people, and the players can be the people who are involved in the process, the bureaucrats, the corporates, the NGOs, etc. And it's all guided by somebody who has the sensibilities,
Right.
environmentalist, architects, design, and this is what the people want, not what you want.
Right. So I
Okay,
think
I want to add something here. Somebody asked me a while ago that which is the most successful public space that you have seen and experienced. And I really, being born and brought up in Bombay, I think Marine Drive is the most successful public space that I have seen. Is there any design to it? There is no design to it. There is just scale to it. No, there is no design to it. Let me be has an architect. No, Vivek, let me finish. Has an architect designed it? An architect has not designed it. There's a framework created. What is nice about Marine Drive is that it's got a really, really wide kind of a promenade, a nice place to sit on. It's been designed technically and it just works beautifully. It doesn't need any program. It's got no fancy lights. It's got no fancy benches. It's got nothing at all. But it's one of the most successful public spaces. And I think part of it is that it is, quote unquote, very less design in it, which is, I think, very, very good. And I think it's very, very successful. It's got no program. It's got hardly any program. It may have a toilet here or a toilet there or a water fountain here, but nothing of any substantial nature. But I think it's but it's really a strong public space. It's something that has been interpreted over the years. And, I did an exercise of looking at Marine Drive. If you look at Marine Drive in movies, right from the 1930s to today and stuff like that, the number of people have changed, but apart from that, very little has changed, honestly speaking. I've actually done a documentation of it in how movies have represented Marine Drive from the 30s right to today. And it's just that's the beauty of it, that the cars have changed, horses have gone, cars have come in, people have become far more crowded, but the space is so robust that it can still take in the pressures, which is what I find fantastic. Which is what I find fantastic about it.
Fantastic.
Hello?
That's what it is. Yeah.
So Vivek, you're trying to provocate. I know you're taking
Kiran,
the role of the provocator, saying the architect shouldn't be concerned about the environment. I don't know where that came from, but I don't know whether you really meant it. But see, as architects and urban
let me just finish on Kiran's thing. Rahul, just a second to answer Kiran. What has remained constant, Kiran, is that the skyline of Marine Drive has not changed. That has been a constant, and because of that, the nature of that Marine Drive has not changed. The moment you put a multi-story building there, if you put a 80-story building there, the entire shadow that will be cast on the Marine Drive, it will change the nature of the whole thing. So there is a constant that is there. The user thing has not changed, and skyline has not changed, and because of that, the public space has remained the same. To answer your question, and also there is enough placemaking that has happened over a period of time. But yes, coming back to Rahul, what Rahul is, so I don't mean what I'm to say that we try to wear too many hats. If we remain primarily as an architect, all concerns of environment, this, that, the other, and also bring in what is the larger benefit of people and public at large, we will be affected the entire operation, we end up
Absolutely.
disrupting something that was going to be done for people.
So, by the
Is
way,
that
both
right
the
or no?
examples which you took have nothing to do with the people. Okay, nothing. So,
Okay.
firstly,
All right.
the coastal road is being made supposedly to solve a transportation problem. Okay, but no road in the history of mankind in a dense city the way Bombay is, FSI more than 2, roads are never the answer to a transportation problem, right? So if you talk about the common man and what the aspirations of a common man are in Mumbai, 50% of people who go to work in Mumbai walk to work, Vivek. Walk to work. 50% walk to work in Mumbai. Okay? And these are
Really?
government statistics, not mine. Another 25% travel by train. And then about 12 or 15% travel by bus. 8% travel by vehicle, either a taxi, or Ola, or Uber, or their own car. 8%, right? That's all in the city of Mumbai. So all that traffic is only 8% of the people going to work, right? If you want to solve the transportation problem of the city, we need to focus on the larger numbers, right? What do the 50% want? What do the 25% want? And what do the 15% want? Do you focus on that? Because we're a democracy, right? What are their aspirations? Or do you focus on this 8%, right? So the coastal road has taken the reserves. The BMC has a reserve of 60,000 crores. We are going to spend 50% of our reserves on a road that is going to serve 2% of the population. 30,000 crores we're going to spend in the next 5 to 6 years to serve 2% who travel on the western side of the city. When the BST, the buses, are asking for a subsidy of 250 crores for 25% of the people, we are saying no, city can't afford it. Every time someone will take a coastal road, every time the BMC will be putting 1,000 rupees in their pocket. You know that? Because they've realized it's not financially feasible. If they put a toll to it, nobody will go. So what have they done? They made it free. By making it free, they're putting 1,000 rupees in my pocket because I have a car, and not doing anything for the guy who's going by bus, and not doing anything for the guy who's walking to work. We are taking away footpaths and giving it to cars. Our footpaths through the last 20 years have shrunk smaller and smaller and smaller. Why? If we are saying we're a democracy and we want to deal with the people, deal with the people.
Because
We
footpath
are
also
doing
is a right for the hawker.
So this no. So hawkers are people, right? They're people,
But it's a
right?
fact.
They're citizens. They're Indians.
Right.
And design for them. It can be designed. It can be done between the trees, etc. We've made plans for that. It doesn't affect mobility at all. Also, if you take the difference between a metro, an underground metro, and any other form, a metro costs 1/3 the amount and can serve 10 times the amount of people. So ultimately, it's 1/100th the cost of a coastal road. And the government has the cheek to say we cannot afford underground metros. We can only afford overground because they're cheaper, but they ruin the landscape. We know that. And you can never create a network if you have an overground this thing. You can't. It has to be underground to create a network. Ultimately, a metro system works because it's a system. You can get to one point to another if it's a network. So we are being very short-sighted in doing these overhead things. We're saying we don't have money. We're doing one underground line only, and we are building the most expensive road in the history of mankind with the coastal road. You know how much it costs? 1,700 crores per kilometer. You tell me where in the world is such an expensive road being made ever in the history of mankind. That is, the Romans didn't do it. If you take their cost, and their roads last much longer.
I'm
So
just
don't
hoping
get
that
me started on the coastal
no,
road.
but I'm just saying that
It's the
I'm
most
hoping that
pathetic
BMC can
project that anybody can think of.
leverage that road to have sell property at 10 times the price and recover the cost of the land. See,
No,
anyway,
no,
I
no,
will
no,
come
no,
back
no,
to
no,
the-
no, 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 no.
Rahul,
They have
Rahul.
promised the environmental ministry and the citizens of Bombay that the land they reclaim, they're reclaiming 70 hectares extra, that is green space, right? They have said that 100 times, that we are creating green space and a road. They've got the environmental permission based on that. The entire project is based on that. This is going to be green space. If they go back and change that, which they can by law, it'll be the biggest betrayal to Mumbaiites they've ever done, because it'll be fraud on the city. Fraud on the city if they do that. So don't give them ideas to do that.
So,
Okay, that's what they
so
have
I
in
would like
mind.
to align
But
our
we've
thoughts
gone to the
again
Supreme
coming-
Court. We've gone to the Supreme Court to make sure that they give affidavits that this will never happen.
Rahul,
We don't want to be cheated.
You've got support from Nilab, who's saying very true, Rahul. And I think it's time, Pooja, to bring in. There are lots and lots of comments. I think it's a very good thing that people are participating. If you want to bring
Yes,
in people and question, please do that. Yes, it'll be interesting
Yes,
to.
oh, right. So, of course,
I'm fighting with these guys. I need some support, guys.
honestly, when we were watching the session, and I'm sure the audience was also loving it, it was, like I mentioned in my intro, it was very heated, and it is very, very heated. I saw Sheila ma'am was so excited. She's like, no, I have to make a point here. So, yes, it was absolutely wonderful. And so, yes, we've received a lot of comments and we've received a lot of questions. So, can I start with the questions?
Please.
All right. So the question is, with the construction, okay, I'll start with this. How can licensing play a role in defining then designing these places? It's from Mr. Deepak.
Is that Deepak Mehta? I mean, again, then if it's going to be Bombay, anybody wants to answer that? Licensing play a role in defining, then designing these places. I don't really quite get it.
I don't either.
Yeah, Pooja, can we skip to the next one, please?
Sure. All right. So with the construction of coastal road, we may make it to the history of frivolous planning. Definitely not to be looked as an achievement. So it's given by Twinkle Kataria. So it's just a comment that she's made, that with the construction of coastal road, we may make it to the history of frivolous planning. Definitely not to be looked at as an achievement. So any
This is a
thoughts?
Rahul fan. Rahul fan.
Fan of good planning.
All right. So we have another question. It says, I would like a reference to Kerala in this discussion. We have eminent architects with excellent ideas for utility of public places, but seldom accepted by the government machinery. What is the solution for this? So it's been sent by Mr. Raghunath Menon from Kochi.
You know, this is an argument that I always encounter. You know, everybody says we pay taxes. So my job is to take out the garbage from my house and keep it outside. You know, thereafter, it's the municipalities or somebody else's job, right? I want to ask all of us, what happens if that kachra doesn't get picked up for next 3 days, 4 days? Will we make that effort in doing something about it, whether we take it in our cars, whatever we do? The cities are the kachra today. Are we going to pick it up and dispose it where it is required or no? Or are we going to allow the cities to degenerate into what they have become today and keep blaming the municipality, not being aligned, not this, that, the other? It's high time, guys. It's high time. You as
No.
You
If
got
the
to do
kachra is
something,
not picked up,
right?
if
What
the
will you
kachra is
do?
not picked up, I will blame the municipality for
And
sure.
do what?
And I'll
Right.
tell him this is your job,
Right.
and please do it. And
Right.
and there is a system in place, and the government has a system and processes in place. They've got a contract given to someone, so there is a process. And as Kiran says, there is a role for the kachra wala to come and to pick it up,
I
because he's
agree,
been
Rahul.
appointed to do that
I
by the
agree
city,
fully,
right?
fully.
And if it's not being done, then you will
Then what
go
will you do?
back and you will tell
It's
your
still not done.
operator.
It's still not done. Then what will you do? That's my question. Our cities have become that example of that kachra. Today,
No.
our public spaces are worth nothing. But look at the good public spaces. Look at Azad Maidan. Look at Shivaji Maidan. There is great democracy to those spaces. There are 10 pitches, 10 cricket matches going on there. There is a great democracy because people realize the importance of that civic space, of that public space. And there is a great democracy in that. They do that. They keep it clean. They have their own democracy. That is exactly, the government has not provided them stadiums to play cricket. This is exactly the role that I'm talking about. That I agree that you are supposed to be
Vivek,
provided a playground.
It's a highly regulated space. You need to go there, apply for a pitch, get a pitch, and you get space to play. It's a regulated space run by the BMC.
In Shivaji Park?
I don't know about Shivaji Park, but Azad
Right.
Maidan, where you go and to get a pitch, you have to book a pitch and you have to
Right.
work there, and you get little slivers of pitches.
Right.
So it's a regulated space. But if you come back to it, how was it created? How was that space created? What was the process that created that space? Right? As Kiran says, there was a need and there was an importance given to such places. When the British decided to expand, the sea came right up, went beyond Churchgate, right up to Fountain. Flora Fountain is where the sea came up. When they reclaimed all of this land, what did they do? They had a process in place. So as Kiran says, are we part of the process? So they put a process in place where they invited designs and master plans. They had a competition. They invited the design. They set the parameters. This is the amount of money we want to earn from it. This is the amount of open spaces we want to create, etc., etc. A master plan was made for that entire thing, and it was a process led by the government of its time. So, coming back to it, that process led to an outcome. What we are saying, screw the process, just give me the outcome. You can't. A factory, a machine, if you put a machine is designed to create something at the end when there's a certain input and certain interventions along the way. That's why they say government machinery, right? So our machinery is designed to give us screwed up public spaces. So unless we redesign the machine and put ourselves back in the process to have a say in it, we will never have a say. We don't have a say.
Kiran.
I just have one issue with this thing. So what is happening is that today, I think there is too much of a top-down approach, actually. And my personal opinion is that we have to start bottom-up. Let me just clarify what I mean by that. These are not big words. But if I belong to a neighborhood, say, for example, a metro is coming. Whatever reason, there's a metro coming. Whether we want now this underground, overground is something that we can argue about. And the decision has been taken, there's a metro coming. And we now all have to live with that metro for the rest of our life. As citizens, I would, want to be careful as citizens, to say that when we talk to the authorities, that is the metro landing properly? Is where the steps coming down, are they well designed? Are they
right?
This is something that we are not doing. So one is to think very big to say, why is a metro coming? Why is this coming? But if a metro is coming, I think we have to think small in terms of, just these smaller gestures also. I think it needs to work at both levels. But as citizens, stroke architects, designers, there's a role that we need to play there, where the public may not realize that this landing of where the metro is coming down from a traffic perspective, from a crossing perspective, from a pedestrian perspective, is not the most appropriate thing. I don't think a common man will really know that also, because they're not exposed to that. We as so-called technical experts or people who have a little bit more exposure on the technical side of things need to come in as part of the citizen to make the authorities aware that this is something that needs to be looked at. But we don't look at it, we just ignore it. So our
No.
Exactly my point. Exactly and that's
No.
the role an
No.
architect should play.
No.
The metro should
Kiran,
look beautiful. It has to be
the
designed
everything-
well. The columns should be slender. The underside of the metro can be done more beautifully. There are enough examples.
And they've already
DMR
appointed an architect and an urban planner to do all that. The
Right,
company
so
that's won the contract to do that has
Right.
already appointed a designer and an architect to do everything Kiran is talking about and everything you are talking about. So unless you are appointed by the company to do that design, so L&T does design and build. All the
Correct.
bids
no,
are
no,
design and build. So
no,
they
Rahul,
already
I
have a
agree.
designer as
no, they
good
have a
as you and
designer.
me.
No,
Rahul,
They,
Rahul, they
our
they
role
already
is-
have a designer who is
is
an
to-
architect
Designer,
and an urban
but
planner
we as
doing it.
citizens,
We should
need to
validate
come
that.
in as architects to say whether that design to
Arey,
critique
who will
it in that
listen
sense.
to you? Yeah? Who will listen
No,
to you? Why
it's,
will
it's,
you
it's
listen
always
to
put
you?
in public domain, Rahul. These kind of DMRC will always
no.
put it in public
Boss-
domain. If
Boss,
they are
I
landing in
wanted
front
to
of their
change
house,
one ramp. I wanted to get one ramp changed in a design, right? Who will listen? Nobody listen.
okay,
L&T is not going to
Let-
listen to me.
since we are
L&T
very
is not going to
very
listen to
Bombay-
me. L&T is going to say, sorry, boss.
Since we are being
You
very
go to the
Bombay centric,
authorities.
we are being very Bombay centric. Let me give you some good examples. You know, the whole idea is to find resonance about good work that's being done in the domain of public spaces. You guys know the fort area, which used to be only a commercial space. You know, in the evenings, post the offices were shut, that was a no man's area. You couldn't even go there. Nobody would go there. Weekends used to be completely shut. There would not be a bird there. And slowly, around the fort area, how because of ground floor shopping, cafes, and everything that has come about, the entire area is becoming a public area. Now there is an activity and a very safe and convivial activity that happens till middle of the night or even later than that. And this is how we've got new public spaces. You know, this is what I'm saying. How do you redefine, modify, and get back public spaces which did not exist? The nature of public spaces is also changing, you know. We need to find out how we need to be relevant to the changing use of a public space. So I think this is one of the examples, a good example where we've got a new public space which didn't exist. Flora Fountain can be an extremely wonderful public space. It is actually a public space, but for the fact that how you can achieve that to be a public space is maybe by damping the traffic over there. You know, if you damp the traffic, if you silence the traffic over there in certain hours, maybe in the evenings you say, okay, now this is pedestrian area. One of the biggest examples that India has had is a thing called Rahagiri. Rahagiri happened in Delhi and in Gurgaon. It was supported by private enterprise, and South American countries came to understand what Rahagiri is. Rahagiri meant that you take back the roads from complete traffic on Saturday and Sunday mornings from 5 till 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That road belongs to people. It belongs to yoga, cyclists, children, all kinds of activities. It revived a city. It became a part of the culture in Gurgaon and in Delhi. Now, this is a new example of how you can get back public spaces which did not exist. My idea of this debate is not to whip a dead horse already. We all know municipality. We all know ideas are not aligned. We all know all of these ills that are there. Let us talk positive. Let us, as you as thought leaders, give us the guidelines of how you can influence society and thinking to get back new spaces. Come on, guys.
Can we have the next question, please?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, because there are too many questions and audience is very excited to know all the answers. So the next question is, what are your views on Central Vista redevelopment plan will sit at odds with Delhi heritage rules? It's by Mr. Ramneek.
Don't get me started. Buildings need to die. Those buildings.
But they don't need to be bond as government offices.
No, but the fact is,
They can be bond as
have-
public buildings.
Yeah, they are public buildings. You know,
No. An office building is not a public building. It's a high security area. A
Everything
government
high
building
security today.
is
Your
a high
society-
security area which public can't go inside.
Now your society is high security. It's fenced. Is it gated or no? It's a human nature. It's a human nature. When you talk about a pedestrian way, what is a pedestrian way? I think the pedestrian way is not what happens next to the road. A pedestrian way is shortest distance between 2 points. The society behind your society has a direct access. One gate opening, you can go from one society to the other. But if you go by the road, which is how we travel from one society to the other, you will go by the road as the road travels. This is a nature. Why do we blame only a public building as a high security place? Every society.
No. What we are saying is that all the land on both sides of the central vista is being colonized by the government. Yes, it's being colonized by the government.
I've seen the complete plans, everything.
I've
Anybody
also
who
seen
wants
the
to argue, please, there is not 1 inch of that lawn being taken away.
I'm not talking about lawn.
Those buildings are anyways not part of the, on those, all Shastri Bhavan, Udyog Bhavan, everything. To go there, you need a security, boss. You need a security to get into your society today. What are we talking about?
Why? So firstly, in COVID times, we have learned that decentralization is better than centralization. You can work from home. Even government officers can work from home, right? So why do we need to centralize is the first thing. It's decentralized now and working perfectly well. Also, why do you need a new parliament building? Has a study been done, and is that study in the public realm? Has there been a debate in the parliament that we need a new parliament? Has there been enough thought given to it? Have experts been called in to ask, and varied can be asked that, do we really need this? Is this needed? We all know the population of India into 2030 is going to start going down. So our representation, you don't even need more seats. So what is the reason we are doing this right now, right? Is there a need? There's no question being asked of anybody. There's no study being done. There's no democratic processes which are being followed at all in doing all this. So it is the whim of one person who wants grandeur for himself and bringing even the Prime Minister's house there. Why does he have to have his house here? There's no need for his house to be here. Let him be where he is.
Rahul, do you know we don't have a Prime Minister's house? Unfortunately, I've been involved. It's 3 bungalows. They existed as 3 bungalows. If you see the condition of, I've been involved with the interiors of the 753 Racecourse Road where the Prime Minister resides. Trust me, when for the first time I walked in there, I was appalled. These are bungalows made in Lachin's time. They do not even have BPC. Do you understand? CPWD.
No. So renovate them. I have no issue with that.
No. So the scale. What we had to do is that this is another story again.
Anyway, we are talking about the parliament. Forget the Prime Minister's bungalow for a minute.
So it has to
the parliament.
No, I think let's talk about the Central Vista project rather than talking about individual listing houses. So
Kiran,
I don't know much about it personally, but I wanted your opinion on it also. What is it that how do Delhiites feel about the Central Vista project? I know there's been a fair amount of controversy going on and stuff like that.
I will give you my viewpoint.
Please.
The avenue that we all take pride in, and I think people tend to mistake Central Vista as the entire Vista, which is getting affected. It's not true. The President House, the North Block, South Block remains exactly the same. The Parliament building as it exists remains exactly the same. There is no change. What is happening is the buildings which are on the side, which are the Udyog Bhavan, the Shastri Bhavan and everything, which were made 70 years back, there is such a poor land use of those buildings. Can I just tell you that they have cycle stand? In today's time, when you don't get parking for your cars or anything or vehicles, you have a cycle stand. It is that irrelevant. I'm sure even the creator of those buildings would have said, okay, demolish these buildings, build something which actually then flanks the entire central vista as a proper avenue. I think that is what is required, and that is what is being done. The misconception that the lawns, India Gate lawns, are going to be taken away. I live in Delhi. I can tell you from the month of end December till January end, that lawn is anyways not approachable because 26th January preparations start there. So it becomes out of bound for people in at large. So I think this is this is what is happening. In fact, as a matter of fact, I don't know how many of you has ever seen these buildings. If any, I'm not even sure that people who are opposing that have ever seen those buildings. So and also the public thing that you're talking about, that you're taking it away from public realm, they are being put back in public realm. The North and South Block are being converted into museums, maybe National Museum or something like that. That means the entry or the egress of public is going to be is more there.
Wife is calling. I said 8:30. This would be over.
Yeah.
So this is what is happening there, and I think we've interviewed Bimal for about 2 hours, but that was not just on Central Vista. I was talking to him as somebody who's doing 3-4 marquee projects, large urban design projects of the country. And in fact, he would have been a great person to have here because he's actually working on the Kashi Vishnath Temple Road. He's done the Sabarmati front. He's doing the Mumbai Port Trust, and he's doing this all at the same time. So in fact, I was asking him, and that's what is relevant, that is it going to leave an imprint of one person doing all those projects together? You know, everybody has a flair and a style. That are you not scared that you will have an imprint of a particular style in all these divergent projects?
Vivek, tell me something. A project of this magnitude, right? How long do you think you should give a designer to come up with a design for this, right? How long? I mean, it's a 20,000 crore project, right? How much deliberation should the country do? Okay, I take your point. Those buildings are dilapidated. They need to be rebuilt. What should be the use they are put to? Should that be in the public realm, or should that be an executive decision taken by one man? So, given what you're saying, absolutely, this needs to be done. We need to upgrade this space. Let's talk about it, right? Let's discuss this. The designers were given 2 to 3 weeks to come up with a design, right? And architects had to pay an EMD of, I don't know, some 25 lakhs, which I don't know who has in the bank. I don't. To participate in this, and given 3 weeks to design the whole thing. No discussion. And you know something? There was no site plan given. They used Google Earth. There were no requirements given.
Oh, but each
one did their own thing.
There was a competition. Yeah,
but the quality of the competition for a 20,000 crore project was so pathetic. You don't even do that for one house. If I was designing my house and wanted to hire an architect, the discussion level would have been higher than what was happening over there. I would at least give my house ka plan to the interior designer. Baba, ye mera plan lo. I wouldn't tell them about Google Earth still out. Anyway, I have to go.
This is how it rolled out, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Thanks
so much. Thanks, Vivek.
Yes.
Thanks for the provocative talk. Thanks, Sheila.
Thank
Kiran.
you. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Rahul.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
yes,
Okay. Bye.
Yes, Pooja, I think we are well over time, unless there is some very pertinent questions.
There are many questions, but we can, I mean, honestly, they're all very good questions, but just I can take at least 1 or 2 if that's okay.
Do that. Yes, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So, don't you think we face a huge democratic deficit and do not have a say in the issues that immediately affect our lives? Like there is no right sizing of representative forums to allow for the meaning.
Yes.
Democratic participation. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I think what we face here basically is a trust deficit. The people don't trust the government, and the government doesn't trust the people. why I say this is because, I have tried at many forums to bring both together, people at large, people who are actively involved in, executing the work, as well as the governments, because ultimately it's a collective decision. But I find that, there is only this attitude of pointing fingers at the other,
Right.
and doing a public getting public consensus is only a matter of a tick box for the government. So they are very happy if there are two people sitting at the public
Sure.
thing, and with not many questions, so that they can go through with their plans.
I-
So this is what is happening, and I think it needs a sea change, and I think it needs it at all levels. It needs at people's level. People have to be more tolerant, not kind of pointing the government and saying that they are doing it wrong. The government has to be tolerant enough to listen to the people. I know it is a Herculean task, but this can happen only not if the sizes of these units are contained. Like, decentralization is the only way. I think now we are at the place where we're saying NCR, central regions, and making a city larger and larger and larger. What for? Is it for a political purpose? I think if we are able to have small neighborhoods which can be well designed, with people who can work together and bring about change and showcase it,
True that.
then we will follow.
Couldn't agree
Yeah,
more.
but I think it's happening in Bombay at the ward level. So now Bombay is divided into wards actually, which are municipal wards. They are legal entities. That unless you have a legal entity, there's a ward where there is a definition of a ward, and there are representatives, etc. So I think this process of engaging public and government together, that is your representative of the government and the public seamlessly. I think it's, unless it happens both ways, and I think I agree with Sheila that the process has started, according to me, at least in Mumbai, from a personal example,
Yes, it
we
has
can talk about where people have started that process. But that's what I'm trying to say, that culturally we've been kind of North Pole and South Pole for a very, very long time. To create that bridge is not going to happen overnight. I think it is going to take a period of time, and I think we can't be cynical about it. We can't lose patience about it. And I personally feel that small gestures where the government and the people come together, where the people understand the government's needs and the government understands the people. The government also has an agenda. I'm not talking about a political agenda. I'm talking about the administration, like the BMC, the municipal corporation. Their concern is it's not political. Their concern is to make the city work in a certain way and stuff like that. And they have their own constraints and stuff like that. And if the two can come together, that is the city authorities and the people in a dialogue. And I think it is happening in small gestures. And I think that needs to get encouraged. And we as architects need to play a role where we can come in, because we've got an understanding of policy at one end, and we've got an understanding of people at the other end. And I think we can start playing a fairly critical role. It doesn't matter whether you do it pro bono, whether there's a fee. That will vary from project to project, vary from circumstance to circumstance. But I think there is a need to start engaging between the government, or the authorities, as I would call it, and the people and the citizens in terms of needs, etc. And I think that if we start, it's already started, but if we start and encourage doing that, I think it's going to be a big step forward as we go along and stuff like that, honestly speaking.
And I only hope that it gets traction. If it gets traction,
I hope so.
Small
It
steps.
will get traction. It will get
Yeah.
traction, Vivek. It will get traction only if more and more people start doing it.
No,
Traction is a
exactly.
question of. It's a question of, it's like, I give you a simple example of a snowball rolling down a mountain. As it goes down
Just
further
one
and further, it
success.
can. Yeah. So I think my problem is that the focus, honestly speaking, generally speaking, when it comes to urban dialogues today, is to do with these big signature projects, which are, you call it Central Vista, or you call it Kashi Vishwanath. Yes, these projects have a political agenda and have their own process. Even the coastal road which Rahul was talking about, there is a political agenda to it, and the government wants to show that they've done something substantial. But I think, my personal opinion is that I would rather that we focus in on small things and get things done and stuff like that. If you're going to fight those battles, I don't think that those battles we're going to get anywhere fighting those battles. Whether the Central Vista project gets done, whether the Ahmedabad riverfront project is right or wrong and stuff like that, we can debate that. So these are the big signature projects. But what is happening is that while we focus on the big signature projects, the small stuff that really affect us on a day-to-day level is getting lost, I think. And that's the problem. And I think we should not let that happen. That's where I think the traction needs to come in. The traction needs to come in on small things as opposed rather than big things. Let the big things happen. I don't have an issue with it. And I'm too small a guy to argue against that. But I would rather worry about the small things to happen, honestly speaking.
Kiran, no snowflake in an avalanche knows its value, I think, or knows what it has done. So don't say that ever. I think collectively, that's my fervent appeal to the fraternity. Let's come together to make a change. We should be seen as change makers and not squabbling fraternity, which is always trying to have opinions and differing opinions, stalling projects, stalling progress.
I agree with you. We should not stall. That's right. I agree with you.
Consensus among the fraternity is, I think, the key. Because we are all individually, we want a better place to live.
Right. So there is no debate.
Better design.
If you remember, I had asked for a debate, and then I realized that there is no debate. Everybody wants good public spaces. Everybody is for the same thing with a different perception of how that should be. I think if we, for the time being, keep that aside and continue our efforts in giving people a public space worth its name, it be great. Yes.
Okay. Should we end here?
One person who was a young architect who was very, pessimistic and said, if, by the time we, fight in the architecture world and come up, then, it's so difficult. But let me just tell him that, yes, life is all about fighting for what you want. But then I think if you have your values and sensitivities right, I think you will prevail. So don't lose heart.
So we have,
right.
Yes, sorry to interrupt. I have a lot of questions here that I can see, but just can we take this last question if that's okay?
Yeah, I need to leave at 9 o'clock. That's my only issue. So 5 minutes.
No worries, sir. We will close before 9. Don't worry. Can we have the question, please? All right. 73rd and 74th Amendment of the Constitution is never implemented by metro cities, municipal authorities. The legal framework is there for public participation. Who can bring people together to challenge and force government to implement and open up for public participation? This is the question by Mr. Puneet Anand.
Anybody? Sheila?
I don't.
I wouldn't know about what this amendment is, but needless to say, architecture remains a social art. It's not a personal art. It's not something you need people's participation. Even when you construct anything, I think it's not an ephemeral construction. It's leaving an imprint on the neighborhood, on the city, on society, on this globe. So I think people's participation for the people will always be extremely important. It's the question will always remain, how do you get a majority of public opinion on one particular side? Now, the simple logic and simple reasoning is the government that you have chosen is by majority, and the decisions that they are taking are being taken on your behalf. So as long as the government, after debating it in the parliament with the opposition, which can raise whatever objections it does, and then it gets passed as a bill or something like that, then we as citizens have to take that it is in our best interest. Government cannot go to 130 billion people and 1.3 billion people and ask them, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? So this is the only method by which majority opinion is taken. That's my take on this.
Yeah, but I think, I feel that, citizens group have to get active if you want to bring about any change on public spaces or what the government is doing, whether it is, how metro stations are designed or how something else is designed. I think citizen forums, I think there needs to be a forum that is created, and forums need to bring this. I don't think each individual has the power to come together and it's going to get too fragmented. So I think that, one has to bring, citizens forums have to come together and really start talking about, and then that's the only way governments will listen. And what we talked about, this dialogue of this mistrust between government and public needs to go. And that's why citizens forum need to come together. And the attitude needs to change, because the attitude today is that there is this constant friction that you are, on two different sides. Why should you be on two different sides? Why can't you come together? I think that's what needs to change and stuff like that. Yeah. So let's end on that positive note. I think that, I think we need to come together more than anything else, rather than squabbling for things, as you said, Vivek. So we shouldn't squabble for things and stuff like that. And we should encourage more and more, stuff to come together. And, if a fellow architect is doing something in the public realm, I think, a lot of people criticize it, but I think we should encourage it more than criticizing it, honestly speaking.
Absolutely.
So, yes. So I think the fact that we've received so many comments and so many questions clearly says that this topic is so important. And of course, when it is discussed by such wonderful 4 speakers who've shared their suggestions, who've raised questions, is so important that I'm sure something or the other will happen in the near future. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Sheila ma'am. Thank you, Kiran sir. And of course, our session provocator, Vivek sir. Thank you so much for making this evening absolutely a memorable one.